When Mike was 9 years old, his world didn't just change, it shattered. Home wasn't a sanctuary. It was a war zone of unpredictable terror, filled with the echo of shattering glass and raw, throat-tearing yelling. The defining image of his childhood was frozen in horror, watching his father's hand slap violently across his mother's face. He watched the agonizing humiliation wash over her, standing frozen in a child's paralyzing confusion. How could the people who gave him life inflict so much bleeding, unvarnished pain? Then, the darkness deepened. His mother was diagnosed with bone marrow cancer. But illness didn't bring softness. It brought an overwhelming, suffocating rage. The house became a minefield where plates, lamps, and furniture were regularly smashed against the walls. Worse than the broken glass, however, was the systematic breaking of the children's spirits. Mike would desperately throw himself into the line of fire, acting as a human shield to rescue his sibling from the chaos, leaving Mike to swallow a toxic, burning anger that had nowhere to go. In high school, that buried trauma found an explosive, exhilarating outlet: football. On the field, the blinding rage became a superpower. Every bone-rattling tackle gave him an intoxicating surge of absolute control. Coaches screamed his praises, teammates worshipped his aggression. For a few hours under the Friday night lights, the broken boy was a god. But behind the fierce plastic of the helmet, a desperate teenager was crying out, using the violence of the game to mask a soul bleeding from years of trauma. Then came the cards. At 17, during family gatherings, Mike felt the first intoxicating thrill of poker. Winning wasn't just about the money, it was a lightning bolt of acceptance. Every time he swept the chips off the table, he would eagerly hand the earnings to his mother, desperate to buy her love and calm her storms. In his mind, gambling became tragically fused with family survival, validation, and a fleeting, frantic happiness. At 18, the dream evaporated. Mike chased a football scholarship to Texas, but the weight of his unaddressed trauma pulled him down. The scholarship vanished. By 19, he was sitting in a cold jail cell for grand theft. In a heartbreaking reflection of his reality, Mike felt a profound, hollow sense of relief behind bars. Because the suffocating walls of a prison were somehow less stressful than the survival game of his own home. Released on probation, he tried to rebuild. At 20, he married. And then came the honeymoon in Las Vegas. The casino floor was a blinding, hypnotic paradise of flashing neon, chiming sirens, and electric energy. It was a sensory overload of pure excitement. Mike struck gold-winning, massive, unbelievable fortunes on the slots and poker tables. The high was magical, a hyper-speed rush that made him feel invincible. He bought cars, trucks, a house, building a happy home to hide his pain. But beneath the thrill, a monster was quietly swallowing him whole. His marriage quickly turned into a cold, transactional business arrangement. His wife increasingly mirrored the volatile, demanding energy of his mother. There was no intimacy, no emotional safety, only the crushing pressure of the next bet. By 1995, the addiction possessed him. He took a job dealing cards at a casino in Lancaster, living inside the belly of the beast. Tips melted away the second he stepped off the clock. Paychecks vanished into the games overnight. Desperately, he took out a $50,000 auto loan and watched it disappear in a week. He intercepted and shredded debt collection letters in the dark, trembling with the terrifying fear that his secret life would be exposed. The crash was devastating. The illusion shattered when his family was evicted, forcing them to leave the house. His wife discovered the mountain of lies, tore the children away from him, and filed for divorce. He was drowning, completely alone in the dark. Mike tried to run again, entering a new relationship while burying his secret shame from his new fiancée. Then came the fateful night in 1998. His ex-wife abruptly dropped the children off at his house. Almost simultaneously, the poker room called him into work. The air was thick with tension. While at the casino, a co-worker named Craig begged Mike to fill a seat in a short-handed poker game. Mike felt a pit in his stomach. He didn't want to play. He tried to say no, but the addiction pulled him in. Everything went terribly, devastatingly wrong. Hand after hand, the cards betrayed him. The adrenaline turned to ice in his veins as he watched his money disappear. Within hours, he was $600 in debt, with absolutely no way to pay it. He ran to an ATM, shoving his card in with trembling fingers, only for the screen to flash a cold, mocking reality. Zero balance. The pressure became a suffocating weight. Mike was helplessly in debt. His coworker feared getting fired for the unpaid debt. The air between them turned toxic. Desperate, Mike told Craig he had a gun in his car that he could sell to settle the debt. Craig followed him out into the bleak, lonely night. Inside the quiet vacuum of the car, Craig refused to take the weapon. An argument erupted, loud, frantic, and fueled by years of unresolved trauma. Then came the horrific split-second choice that would echo through eternity. Mike grabbed the heavy gun and pulled the slide back. Craig turned toward him. In that final agonizing microsecond, Mike looked into his eyes. He expected to see anger. He expected to see terror. Instead, the final expression etched onto Craig's face was a devastating, heartbreaking sadness. Mike pulled the trigger. 5 deafening explosions shattered the quiet air. Craig died instantly. The bullet hit the neck and head. The sorrow of that moment ripples outward like an unbearable tragedy. Craig wasn't just a coworker. He was a beautiful soul. He was a brave Marine who had survived the Gulf War. He was a deeply faithful man who spent his time and money working through his church to send clean water and food to starving children across the globe. He was a devoted brother and an idolized uncle who raised his nephew like his own son. He possessed a radiant, contagious smile and a laugh that could heal a room. Tragically, when Mike had been homesick and drowning in his own life, Craig had been one of the few people who reached out a hand to support him. Mike fled to Mexico, but the hot wind offered no escape. He carried a crushing, agonizing weight of guilt and emptiness that no ocean could wash away. The silence of the desert followed him everywhere until, broken and defeated, he turned himself in. Mike's story is a haunting monument to the generational cycle of trauma. It is the tragic tale of how a terrified 9-year-old boy watching violence in his living room slowly transformed into the very monster he feared. In the end, the true cost of his addiction wasn't the millions lost at the felt tables. It was measured in blood, a beautiful life stolen, and a trail of shattered hearts that can never be mended.